Good evening, members of the media. Permit me to apologize to you for this late start. I literally just came out of a war zone. I saw many of you there, so you could understand and appreciate the circumstances. As you are aware, today the body of Adrianna Younge was examined. Initially, X-rays were done, CT scan was also done. The pathologists, three pathologists we had, Dr. Gary Collins, Dr. Paul, and Dr. Rodder are the three doctors who carry out this operation or the examination today. Based on the findings, they determined that she died by drowning. I witnessed the post-mortem examination. Another doctor, Dr. Caleb McLaurin, who is also the family doctor for the deceased witnesses, and one Karen Pereira, the family nurse, also witnessed the post-mortem. We had the police officers there, and also the persons from our local morgue. In the room, the examination started on or about 1:15 and ended approximately, let us say, 5 o'clock, 17 hours this afternoon. Thank you. I believe that is a synopsis of what transpired. Any questions from the media?
The lines are open. You know, use the hand signal sign. Raise your hand, and we'll recognize your hand, and then you ask the question. And if you're from the media, you will tell us exactly which media house you're representing. So the lines are now open. We have Svetlana Marshall. Go ahead,
Svetlana Marshall from News Source. Mr. Wade, could you say if the pathologist explained the reasons for the marks on her body? And yeah, that's the first question.
Yes, they had a meeting with the family, and they explained it appears to be, according to them, in relation to, because it's consistent with damage that may be caused by the water.
Mr. Wade, I'm not hearing.
You cannot hear me?
Response. I was unable to hear your intro. And I'm unable to hear the response to my question.
The technicians are addressing it. I'm very sorry. As you were aware, I'm not a technician. I'm just trying to feed some information here to you and the members of the public. All right, I'm asking the technician to look at it. Thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I hear you now, and we weren't able to hear you initially when you started speaking.
No, well, I apologize for the late start, and I indicated the reason for the late start. I should also apologize for Dr. Collins, who had indicated that he would have been here today, but because of the circumstances of this afternoon, coming out of a war zone, we were in a building locked up. The media was there. You see what was transpiring. The building was being hit. We don't know by what. Adrianna's mom was there. Every time it happened, she was startled every time the building hit, and every time she heard a gunshot. It was very terrifying for several of us who were locked in a building. That is what I was explaining. So what is your question, please, Svetlana? Can you restate your question, please?
Sorry, I was asking about whether there was any indication of there being marks of violence on her body, and was there an explanation given for the dark spots on her face, her hands, and her feet, for example?
Based on the determination and based upon the findings of the pathologist, there were no broken bones. They could not have determined whether or not there were any injuries to her body. Inflicted injuries to her body.
I know you said that there was drowning. Did they express the possibility that she could have drowned somewhere else other than the pool? Was there any indication, maybe, did they say to test the water from in her system to compare whether that had the chemicals associated with a pool versus regular water from a tap? Anything of the sort? Was that?
At this stage, what I understand is that they would have been unable to determine that whether or not she drowned in the pool or there were no.
I'm so sorry, but I'm not hearing you again.
Yes, yeah, please don't interfere with it. Good. They were unable to determine that, or matter of fact, at this stage, they would have been unable to determine whether it was a tap water or a pool water and so forth. No determinations were made in relation to the way she drowned, where the drowning took place. No determination were made in relation to that. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you now.
Okay, good, thanks, good. Any further?
Some persons are still not hearing you.
But if you are hearing me, and some is not hearing, then there may be some problem on their end because you're hearing me.
Okay.
Anybody else with a question?
Thinking about it with cultural news, I raised my hand and I did not get a signal to go ahead, but I'm not sure still. Could you explain the reason, or is there a reason for the discoloration on her skin?
That, based upon my understanding and what was explained to the family, these are not my words, they are consistent with water damage.
Also, there were suspicions that there was cotton wool stuffed up her nose. Could you confirm that this is indeed so?
Well, when the pathologist examined the body at that stage, there were no cotton wool. They did not observe cotton at that stage.
What's next for the family now that you've said she died by a drowning?
Well, the family continue to press the state of Guyana, the government of Guyana, for an independent and impartial investigation. We all are aware His Excellency said that no stone will be left unturned. They will support the family and what have you. However, based upon our knowledge, there have been no effort or move, and I believe it is critical at this point in time for the family and for the entire country that the state acts, that the president just don't talk and that he deliver based upon that promise for the family. And the family has asked, they have mentioned, the mother have asked for the FBI. I, in a letter, have asked for the Scotland Yard, the FBI, or the Royal Mountain Branch of Canada Police. So it's important for an impartial and proper investigation to be done.
Mr. Wade, perhaps finally from me for now. The way in which the body was discovered, sort of like in a standing position rather than floating on top of the water, was there any explanation given for that as well? Because
I recall,
there is people believe that when a body drowns, it surfaces completely. But was there any explanation for how the body was found positioned in the water?
I recall that question being asked, and there's some sort of discussion in relation to it, but I am not in a position, quite frankly, to address that particular question.
Could you, based on what you just said, could we rule out murder at this time?
That was not the job of the pathologist. And if you follow what I have just said, it is imperative and important for an impartial and proper investigation to be done. We have a case here where the police failed to cordon off the place. We have a situation where the police failed to act. So that is a question I believe more or less should be directed to the police. The pathologists, that's not their job. The pathologists determine a finding, and it is for the police to investigate.
I know it's said finally, but sir,
Yes, please.
given that no determination was made regarding the metal that went into this child's body, could there be possible investigations carried out after this process?
For what, may I ask?
Test the water to ensure that it has the same chemicals that were inside the pool.
One, I am not sure whether or not the water that is found in the lungs is the water from the pool or what have you. I can't say that. I cannot say whether or not that will be able to bear a result to show it's a different water from the fuel from the body or from the pool or from a different location. I cannot give a response in relation to that question.
No, I understand that.
Yes.
Just better to allow. But what I'm asking is, given that this determination has been made in that regard, will you as the family's lawyer push for that to happen, just to ensure that perhaps we can rule out murder for in this case?
I am not sure whether at this stage it is plausible, but what we could do, as I mentioned, generally, it is called for a proper investigation, and it is, I believe, one of the things is that the body was there so long, the FBI, probably FBI, the Scotland Yard, or somebody with specialty, more or less, should have been invited at this stage to address those questions that you have.
This way, could you say what was the time of death given? And also, could you say if the police spoke for the 3 pathologists in the absence of the attorneys and the family before the postmortem examination was conducted?
Okay. So there was a meeting with the police and the pathologist. I sat in that meeting.
Will the pathologist sexually assaulted? Any observation with regards to that?
Pardon me? The question I didn't hear. I didn't hear you. I did not hear you.
I'm asking about whether there were any evidence to suggest that she was sexually
No. All of that was done, and no finding of such. All of that was done.
Will the pathologist be issuing an official report?
I believe that to conclude a duty, I suspect that is the only conclusion. The pathologists, they were prepared to meet with the media, to talk, and so forth. But unfortunately, what transpired this afternoon, anybody in such circumstances can't act. The time of death. They were unable to determine that. The time of death.
So they were unable to determine the time of death?
Yes, please.
Was there an explanation there?
I could recall there being a discussion in relation to why they were unable to determine a time of death. But as it is now, to be honest, I can't recall the explanation. Or if I was clear on why they could not have determined the time of death. And I remember the body started decomposing as well and so on.
I'm not sure, but can you say if the pathologists were able to find any sort of DNA on Adrianna's body, perhaps like anything on her skin, her nails or so?
Well, that will more or less be an impossible question based upon the pathologist's competence. Those are testing that need to be, what I'm aware of, that samplings are taken and those samplings are to be sent overseas. But that would not be a question for the pathologist, really and truly.
This is just for clarity. Could you say if all 3 of the pathologists conducted the examination at the same time? I just want to...
Yes, they worked in tandem. I must say that. They worked in tandem. They carry out, everything was videoed by the police. Everything was done as I appear from my untrained eyes. They did a thorough examination. Matter of fact, the police officers, they were the first time they see such a thorough examination.
Is that it? Any more questions? All right, that looks like it.
I thank you very much, members of the media. Thank you.
Water to ensure that it has the same chemicals that were.
Thank you very much, members of the media.